6 months. That was all the time Earth had given itself to prepare for war. 6 months to transform from a peaceful spacefaring civilization into something the galaxy had never seen before. Every nation contributed. Old enemies became allies. Resources flowed freely. The entire planet unified under a single purpose: vengeance. Dr. Helen Carter had never imagined she would become a weapons designer. She had spent 20 years developing medical treatments and studying alien biology to help humans adapt to new worlds. Now she stood in a military laboratory deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, working on ways to kill. Her team had access to every piece of biological data humanity had collected about the Vakreen. Trade delegations, cultural exchanges, medical records from the few Vakreen who had visited Earth. All of it was now being weaponized. "The virus is ready for final testing," her assistant said, bringing up genetic sequences on the main screen. "It targets their neural chemistry, cascading system failures over a period of 6 to 8 hours. Extremely painful. 100% fatal." Helen studied the data. The virus was elegant, precise. It would only affect Vakreen physiology. Humans and other species would be completely immune. She had designed it that way. Humanity would not become monsters. They would simply eliminate the monsters that had attacked them. "Begin production," she said. "I want enough doses to contaminate every Vakreen military installation in their empire." She felt no guilt. Every time doubt crept into her mind, she watched the footage from Colony 7 again. She saw the children running from Vakreen soldiers. She saw families burned alive in their homes. Her conscience was clean. Across the continent, Captain Amy Rodriguez oversaw the construction of Earth's new war fleet. The orbital shipyards had been expanded tenfold. Thousands of workers labored around the clock. The sound of welding torches and hammers never stopped. The sky above Earth glowed with the light of new warships being born. Amy walked through the assembly bay of the lead ship, inspecting every detail. The Retribution-class battleship was nothing like the elegant exploration vessels humans had built before. It was ugly, brutal, functional. Thick armor plating covered every surface. Weapons bristled from dozens of hard points. The reactor produced enough power to crack a moon. "She's beautiful," Amy said to the chief engineer. The older man laughed. "She's a flying coffin." "For them, not us. We've packed enough firepower on this ship to take on 10 enemy cruisers, and we're building 50 of them," Amy nodded. 50 battleships, 200 cruisers, 500 destroyers, 1,000 support vessels. In 6 months, Earth had built an armada that dwarfed the combined fleets of most galactic nations. Every ship had one purpose: to deliver death to the Vakreen Empire. She climbed to the bridge and activated the communication system. "All hands, this is Captain Rodriguez. Welcome aboard the Vengeance. We launch in 2 weeks. When we reach Vakreen space, we will show them what human engineering can do. We will show them what human courage means, and we will show them that humanity protects its own." The crew cheered. Every person on the ship had volunteered. Many had lost family at Colony 7. Others simply believed in protecting humanity's future. All of them were ready to fight. Jake Morrison ran through the rain, leading 50 soldiers across the muddy training ground. The Reaper Corps had been his idea. Elite soldiers equipped with powered armor and neural-linked weapons. They would be the tip of the spear, the first ones into enemy territory. Training was brutal. Jake pushed every recruit to their absolute limits. If they broke during training, they would stay alive. If they broke during combat, they would die. He couldn't allow that. Private Chris Bennett led his squad through the obstacle course. The young man had joined the military the day after Colony 7 fell. His sister had been a teacher there. She died in the school bombing. Chris never talked about her. He didn't need to. Everyone in the Reaper Corps had their own reasons for being there. "Move faster," Jake shouted. "The Vakreen won't wait for you to catch your breath. They won't give you time to think. You need to act. You need to be faster, stronger, and meaner than anything they have." Chris reached the final obstacle, a 30-foot wall. His powered armor boosted his jump, carrying him to the top in one leap. He landed hard, rolled, and came up with his rifle ready. "Perfect form," Jake nodded in approval. Chris would do well in combat. They all would. He had made sure of that. That evening, Jake met with Admiral Grant to finalize the battle plan. The strategy was simple and brutal. Humanity would not fight a defensive war. They would strike first, Strike hard and strike everywhere at once. We hit 20 targets simultaneously, Grant explained, pointing at the star map. Every major Vakreen military base, every shipyard, every command center. We destroy their ability to wage war in one coordinated assault. What about civilian casualties? Jake asked. We avoid civilian targets. We're not like them. But make no mistake, we will destroy everything military. Every ship, every weapon, every soldier. When we're done, the Vakreen Empire will cease to exist as a military power. Jake studied the plan. It was aggressive, risky, brilliant. When do we launch? 3 days. The fleet is ready. Your Reaper Corps is ready. Earth is ready. Grant looked at him. Are you ready? Jake thought about Lisa, about the children, about 40,000 dead humans crying out for justice. I've been ready since the day we found Colony 7 burning. The Galactic Council sent another delegation to Earth. They arrived in an elegant diplomatic ship, carrying messages of peace and compromise. Ambassador Richard Cole met them in orbit. He didn't invite them to the surface. The lead counselor, a tall insectoid creature, projected calm concern. Ambassador Cole, we understand Earth's anger, but war with the Vakreen is suicide. They have the third largest fleet in the galaxy. Please accept the Council's mediation. We can negotiate terms. Cole's smile was cold. Terms? What terms did the Vakreen offer the children at Colony 7? What negotiations happened before they started bombing? That was unfortunate, but unfortunate. Cole's voice rose. 40,000 humans were systematically murdered. The Vakreen broadcast it as entertainment. And you want us to negotiate? The counselor tried again. We know about your fleet buildup. It's impressive. But the Vakreen will crush you. Please, for the sake of your species, accept. Cole cut the transmission. He opened a new channel, this one going directly to the council chambers. Every member would see this. Humanity tried peace. We followed galactic law. We joined your council. We paid our dues. We asked for nothing but the right to exist among the stars. The Vakreen answered with genocide. You answered with cowardice. Cole's eyes were hard. So here are humanity's terms. The Vakreen Empire will surrender unconditionally. Every officer involved in the Colony 7 massacre will stand trial. If the Vakreen refuse, we will destroy them. If the Council interferes, we will remember who stood with us and who stood against us. Earth has spoken. The feed cut out. Cole turned to his staff. Get me a shuttle to the Vengeance. I'm going with the fleet. Someone needs to document this for history. President Wright gave the final authorization 2 days later. The entire planet watched as the human armada departed Earth orbit. 700 warships, their hulls painted black, their weapons armed, their crews ready for blood. On the lead ship, Admiral Grant addressed her fleet. We are about to do something humanity has never done before. We are going to wage total war against an enemy that thought we were weak. They will learn differently. Every ship, every soldier, every weapon we have is pointed at one goal: the complete destruction of Vakreen military power. She paused, looking at the faces of her bridge crew, young, determined, afraid but unwilling to show it. The Vakreen wanted to teach us fear. They wanted to make an example of Colony 7. They succeeded. They made an example. But not the example they intended. They showed the galaxy what happens when you attack humans. They showed the galaxy that we will not forgive. We will not forget. And we will never ever stop coming for those who hurt us. The fleet engaged their faster-than-light drives. Space twisted around them. Stars became streaks of light. Humanity was going to war, and the galaxy would never be the same. 3 months had passed since the first strike. The Vakreen Empire was dying, cut apart piece by human forces that showed no mercy and accepted no surrender. Every military installation was destroyed. Every weapons factory was reduced to rubble. Every government facility that had supported the war effort was systematically eliminated. Admiral Susan Grant stood in the war room deep inside the Vengeance, studying reports from across Vakreen territory. 50 human battle groups operated independently, each hunting down remaining military forces. The Vakreen fleet had been reduced from over 1,000 ships to fewer than 100, most of which were hiding in remote systems. The Council is convening another emergency session, her intelligence officer reported. They're threatening sanctions against Earth. Grant looked up from her reports. Let them threaten. We're not stopping until the job is done. A new message appeared on her screen. Ambassador Richard Cole reporting from the council chambers. Grant opened the secure channel. Cole's face appeared, and he looked tired but satisfied. Admiral, you need to see this. I've just released evidence to the entire council. Vacrine data cores we captured show that they informed the council about their planned attack on Colony 7 3 weeks before it happened. The council knew, and they did nothing. Grant felt cold anger settle in her chest. They knew? They knew. The council decided that maintaining peace with the Vacrine was more important than warning us. They sacrificed 40,000 humans to avoid a conflict. Cole's expression was hard. I've submitted formal charges against the council for complicity and genocide. Half the member species are in chaos right now. 3 governments have already withdrawn from the council. Good, Grant said. Maybe now they'll understand why we won't stop fighting. Captain Amy Rodriguez led the siege of the Vacrine throne world. The planet called Vacros Prime had orbital defenses that were supposed to be impregnable. 20 defensive platforms, 200 automated weapon satellites, a fleet of 50 warships protecting the homeworld of the Empire. Amy brought 300 human vessels to the fight. She didn't even try to be subtle. All ships maximum firepower, she ordered. I want those platforms destroyed in the first volley. The human fleet opened fire simultaneously. The void filled with railgun slugs and missiles. The Vacrine defenses tried to respond, but they were overwhelmed. Defensive platforms exploded one after another. Weapon satellites were swept away like leaves in a storm. The Vacrine home fleet charged the human formation, their ships arrayed in perfect battle formation. They fought with the desperation of defenders protecting their homeworld. They fought well. They died anyway. Amy watched enemy ships die and felt nothing. No satisfaction, no guilt, just cold professionalism. This had to be done. The Vacrine had to learn that attacking humans carried a price they could never afford to pay. Ground defenses are eliminated, her tactical officer reported. We have clear approach vectors. Inform General Morrison. He has permission to deploy. Jake Morrison led the Reaper Corps down to Vacros Prime in the largest combat drop in human history. 5,000 soldiers in powered armor, supported by gunships and heavy weapons. Their target was simple: the Imperial Palace where Sovereign Kral commanded what remained of his empire. The landing was opposed. Vacrine ground forces fought hard, defending their capital with everything they had. Anti-aircraft fire filled the sky. Ground vehicles fired on the descending assault craft. It didn't matter. The human landing craft were armored to survive atmospheric entry. A few rockets weren't going to stop them. Chris Bennett was the first soldier to hit the ground. His boots cratered the pavement outside the palace walls. Vacrine soldiers rushed him. He killed the first 3 before the rest of his squad landed beside him. Reaper Corps, advance. Jake's voice came through their communication network. Civilian buildings are off limits. Anyone who fires on us is a valid target. Rules of engagement are weapons free, but verify your targets. The Reaper Corps pushed through the palace defenses. Vacrine soldiers fought from prepared positions, using heavy weapons that could penetrate powered armor. Humans died, but more Vacrine died, and the humans kept coming. Jake led his command squad through the main gate. The palace was massive, built to intimidate visitors with its scale. Statues of Vacrine emperors lined the approach. Jake noted with satisfaction that human artillery was systematically destroying each one. Inside the palace, the Vacrine Royal Guard made their last stand. Elite soldiers, the best the Empire had. They fought with honor and skill. They died in their dozens. The humans pushed through room after room, their weapons never stopping. They found Sovereign Kral in the throne room, surrounded by his remaining advisors. The Emperor was old, his scales dulled with age, but his eyes were still sharp. He sat on his throne as humans surrounded him, refusing to show fear. So, the humans have come for their revenge, Kral said. I suppose I should have anticipated this. Jake stepped forward, his armor splattered with blood. Sovereign Kral, you are under arrest for war crimes. The murder of 40,000 human civilians. The use of weapons of mass destruction against undefended targets. The broadcasting of atrocities for propaganda purposes. Kral laughed. War crimes? We are at war. There are no crimes in war, only winners and losers, and it appears we have lost. Then you admit ordering the attack on Colony 7? Of course I ordered it. I wanted to break human spirit before your species became a threat. I see now that I failed. Perhaps I should have killed more of you. Kral stood from his throne. But I will not beg. I will not plead. Execute me if you wish. Make me a martyr. It changes nothing. Jake wanted to shoot him. Every instinct screamed to pull the trigger. This creature had ordered the deaths of children. He had watched the massacre and felt pride. He deserved death, but Jake remembered Admiral Grant's orders. They were not monsters. They were soldiers. They would show the galaxy that humans could be just, even in victory. You're going to stand trial, Jake said. The whole galaxy is going to hear about what you did. They're going to see evidence of your crimes, and then you're going to spend the rest of your life in a human prison, knowing that your empire is gone and your legacy is genocide. Krall's expression shifted. For the first time, he looked afraid. Death would be easy. Living with the consequences would be torture. Secure the prisoner, Jake ordered, and get our broadcast equipment set up. The galaxy is going to watch this trial. Dr. Helen Carter stood in what had been the Vakreen Primary Research Facility. Her team had spent 2 weeks cataloging what they found. The discoveries were horrifying. Test subjects from a dozen species. Biological weapons designed to target specific genetic markers. Plans for attacks on multiple worlds, including Earth. The Vakreen hadn't just attacked Colony 7 on a whim. They had been planning galactic genocide. Humanity had been one target among many. Helen documented everything. Every experiment. Every dead subject. Every horrific plan. She made sure it was all recorded and transmitted to the Galactic Council. Let them see what their peace had protected. Let them see what would have happened if humanity hadn't fought back. Dr. Carter, one of her researchers, called out, "You need to see this." She followed him to a secure vault. Inside were data cores containing Vakreen intelligence on other species. Military strengths, weaknesses, potential targets. The Vakreen had been preparing for decades to conquer the galaxy piece by piece. Send copies to every government in the known galaxy, Helen ordered. They need to know what almost happened. They need to know what we stopped. The trial of Sovereign Krall lasted 3 days. It was broadcast across the galaxy, translated into hundreds of languages. Evidence was presented. Witnesses testified. The footage from Colony 7 was shown in its entirety. Krall defended his actions, claiming he was protecting Vakreen interests. He showed no remorse, no understanding that he had done anything wrong. To him, humans were simply inferior beings who needed to be controlled or eliminated. The judges were human, but they applied universal laws of war. The verdict was unanimous. Guilty on all counts. The sentence was death. President Daniel Wright personally commuted the sentence to life imprisonment. He addressed the galaxy directly, explaining humanity's decision. We could execute Sovereign Krall. Many of our people demand it. But we are not executioners. We are not like the Vakreen. We fight when we must. We show mercy when we can. Krall will live, but he will live knowing that his empire is gone. His military is destroyed. His plans for conquest are shattered. That is justice. Admiral Grant received reports from across former Vakreen space. Human forces had completed their objectives. Every military target was destroyed. The Vakreen no longer possessed the ability to wage war. The task was complete. She stood on the bridge of the Vengeance looking at the tactical display. 3 Galactic Council fleets had positioned themselves around Earth while the human military was deployed. They claimed it was for peacekeeping purposes, but Grant knew a threat when she saw one. Helm, set course for Earth. Maximum speed. And send a message to all human forces. We're going home. The fleet began jumping to faster than light speed. Ship by ship, they departed Vakreen space. Behind them, they left a broken empire. Its military power destroyed, its government dismantled. The human fleet emerged from faster than light travel at the edge of Vakreen space. 50 warships formed the vanguard, with Jake Morrison's assault force ready to deploy the moment the shooting started. 600 more vessels waited in reserve, ready to jump to any position that needed reinforcement. Captain Amy Rodriguez stood on the bridge of the Vengeance, watching the tactical display light up with enemy contacts. The Vakreen fortress at Korath Prime hung in orbit above their primary shipyard. 100 military vessels surrounded it. They outnumbered her strike force 2-1. They're hailing us, her communication officer reported. Put them through. The view screen flickered to life. A Vakreen War Master appeared, his 4 eyes gleaming with contempt. His species was large, heavily muscled, with thick scaled skin that had evolved for combat. They had conquered a dozen worlds before humanity ever left Earth. Human vessel, you have entered Vakreen territory. You will power down your weapons and prepare to be boarded. Your species has been judged and found wanting. You will serve the Empire or you will die." Amy smiled. It was not a pleasant expression. "War Master, my name is Captain Amy Rodriguez. I'm here to deliver a message from humanity. The message is simple. You murdered 40,000 of our people. Now we're going to murder all of you." She cut the transmission and opened the fleet channel. "All ships, weapons free. Fire everything." The void erupted in light and violence. Human warships didn't maneuver elegantly. They accelerated directly toward the enemy, closing the distance as fast as their engines could push them. Railguns fired, hurling slugs of metal at a significant fraction of light speed. Each impact had the force of a small nuclear weapon. A Vacrine cruiser exploded as 3 railgun rounds punched through its shields and hull. Another tried to turn away, only to be caught by a spread of missiles that overwhelmed its point defenses. Nuclear fire bloomed in the darkness. The Vacrine returned fire. Plasma beams and particle weapons hammered human shields. 2 destroyers took critical hits, their armor glowing white-hot. But the human ships kept coming. They were designed to take punishment and keep fighting. Amy watched the battle unfold with cold satisfaction. The Vacrine had numerical superiority, but they had never fought an enemy like this. Human vessels absorbed damage that would have destroyed any other ship, closing to point-blank range before unleashing their full firepower. "Target the fortress," she ordered. "I want that structure reduced to scrap." The Vengeance's main guns spoke. 6 heavy railguns fired in sequence, each shot tearing through the fortress's shields. The structure shuddered under the impact. Secondary explosions rippled across its surface as power conduits overloaded. "Reaper Corps, you have green light for deployment," Amy announced. Jake Morrison felt the familiar rush of adrenaline as his assault craft launched from the Vengeance. 20 ships carried his Reaper Corps toward the fortress. The Vacrine were trying to shoot them down, but human point defense lasers intercepted most of the incoming fire. 2 minutes to breach," his pilot called out. Jake checked his squad. 50 soldiers in powered armor, their weapons loaded with ammunition designed specifically to penetrate Vacrine scales. Chris Bennett gave him a thumbs up. The young man had come a long way from the grief-stricken recruit Jake had first met. The assault craft slammed into the fortress hull. Magnetic clamps locked them in place. Breaching charges detonated, blowing holes through the armored shell. The Reaper Corps poured through the openings, their weapons already firing. Vacrine soldiers rushed to repel the boarders. They were big, strong, and trained for close combat. They had claws that could tear through standard body armor. They had thick scales that could stop most small arms fire. They had never fought humans before. Jake's rifle barked 3 times. Armor-piercing rounds punched through Vacrine scales, tearing into the flesh beneath. The alien soldier dropped. 2 more charged him. Jake sidestepped the first, letting his armor's strength boost drive his combat knife into the creature's neck. The second managed to rake claws across his chest plate before Chris shot it in the head. "Keep moving," Jake shouted. "We need to reach the command center." The Reaper Corps fought through corridor after corridor. The Vacrine were fierce opponents, but human training and equipment gave them the edge. More importantly, humans were fighting with a fury the Vacrine couldn't match. Every soldier remembered Colony 7. Every soldier knew what these creatures had done. They reached the command center after 20 minutes of brutal combat. Vacrine officers tried to establish a defensive position, but human grenades shattered their line. Jake led the final charge, his weapon on full automatic. The room filled with smoke and blood. When the shooting stopped, Jake found the fortress commander cowering behind a console. The Vacrine officer's 4 eyes were wide with fear. He had probably ordered the bombing of a dozen worlds. He had probably watched the Colony 7 massacre with pride. "You're under arrest for war crimes," Jake said. He grabbed the officer and dragged him toward a camera terminal. "And you're going to help us send a message." Outside the fortress, the space battle was turning into a massacre. The Vacrine had lost 40 ships. The human fleet had lost 3. Amy watched enemy vessels try to flee and ordered pursuit. "Don't let them escape. I want every ship destroyed or captured. No exceptions." The battle lasted 4 hours. When it ended, the Vacrine fortress was in human hands. The shipyard below was destroyed. Of the 100 enemy vessels, only 12 managed to jump to faster than light speed. The rest were debris. Amy's communication officer looked up. "Captain, we're receiving reports from the other strike forces. 17 out of 20 targets have been secured. 2 battles are still ongoing. One target was evacuated before we arrived. Casualties? We've lost 38 ships across all engagements. Enemy losses are estimated at over 600 vessels. Amy nodded. The plan was working. Across Vakreen space, human forces were systematically destroying their military infrastructure. The empire that had stood for 3 centuries was being dismantled in a single day. Open a channel to all of our ships. Broadband transmission. I want every species in the galaxy to receive this. She waited for confirmation, then began. This is Captain Amy Rodriguez of the Human Defense Fleet. 6 months ago, the Vakreen Empire attacked Colony 7 without provocation. They murdered 40,000 civilians, including children. They broadcast their crime to terrorize humanity. Today, humanity has responded. We have destroyed Vakreen military power. We have captured their fortresses. We have shown the galaxy what happens when you attack humans. She gestured, and the camera switched to show the captured Vakreen commander. Jake stood behind him, his armor stained with blood. The Fortress Command Center was a wreck of destroyed equipment and dead bodies. This is War Master Throck, Amy continued. He commanded the fleet that bombarded Colony 7. He personally ordered the execution of survivors. He thought humans were weak. He was wrong. The camera panned across the battle damage. Broken Vakreen ships drifted past the viewports. The fortress was a gutted shell, sparking with electrical fires. Humanity does not seek war. We do not desire conquest, but we will protect our own. Any species that threatens us, any government that attacks our people, will face the same fate as the Vakreen. We are not prey. We are not victims. We are humans, and we do not forgive those who murder our children. Amy cut the transmission. Around her, the bridge crew was silent. They had just participated in the largest military operation in human history. They had won a crushing victory, but the cost was visible on every face. This was not glory. This was necessary brutality. Captain, the sensor officer called out. We're detecting a large fleet approaching. It's not Vakreen. The signatures match Galactic Council security forces. Amy checked the tactical display. 50 ships, all bearing Council insignia. They were positioning themselves between the human fleet and the next Vakreen target. Hail them. A Council admiral appeared on screen. His species was aquatic. His translated voice calm and reasonable. Captain Rodriguez, the Council orders you to cease hostilities immediately. You have made your point. Further violence is unnecessary and will be considered an act of aggression against Council authority. Amy looked at him for a long moment. Then she opened a fleet-wide channel. All ships, battle stations, prepare to engage Council forces if they do not withdraw. Captain, you cannot be serious, the Council admiral said. We are peacekeepers. We are neutral. You were neutral when the Vakreen slaughtered our people, Amy interrupted. You were neutral when they broadcast our children being murdered. You told us to accept terms. You told us to surrender. Now you want us to stop before we finish the job. She leaned forward. Admiral, you have exactly 1 minute to withdraw your ships. If you're still here after that, we will consider you hostile. And right now, hostile forces don't live very long. The Council Admiral's face went through several color changes. Fear, anger, calculation, finally, resignation. We will withdraw. But this is not over. The Council will remember this. Good, Amy said. Remember it well. Remember that humans protect their own. And remember that we're not afraid of you anymore. The Council ships turned and jumped to faster-than-light speed. Amy watched them go, feeling no satisfaction. Just grim determination. The human fleet returned to Earth orbit 8 months after Colony 7's destruction. Captain Amy Rodriguez stood on the bridge of the Vengeance as her ship took its place, among the defensive formations surrounding humanity's homeworld. Below, billions of people celebrated their return. Victory parades were planned. Monuments would be built. But Amy felt no joy. She had seen too much. Done too much. The faces of dead Vakreen soldiers haunted her dreams, mixed with memories of the colonists she had failed to save. Victory tasted like ash. Admiral Susan Grant gathered her senior officers for a final briefing. The war room was crowded with people who had aged years in the past 8 months. Jake Morrison looked older. Dr. Helen Carter's hands shook slightly. Ambassador Richard Cole had lines on his face that hadn't been there before. The Council has formally recognized Vakreen military neutralization, Grant reported. They're demanding we withdraw all occupation forces and allow Council peacekeepers to monitor the situation. And our response? Jake asked. We're withdrawing most of our forces but maintaining monitoring stations. The Vakreen will be on probation for the next 20 years. Any military buildup will be met with immediate action. Grant looked around the room. We're also keeping the fleet on high alert. 3 other aggressive species have suddenly become very interested in diplomatic relations with Earth. They've seen what we can do. Cole nodded. The political landscape has completely changed. Half the Galactic Council wants to condemn our actions. The other half wants to sign mutual defense pacts with us. We've gone from being ignored to being the most powerful military force in known space. How does that make you feel? Helen asked quietly. Scared, Cole admitted. Humanity has power now. The question is what we do with it. President Daniel Wright addressed that question the next day. He stood before a joint session of Earth's unified government, with billions watching via broadcast. His speech was carried across the galaxy, translated into every known language. 8 months ago, we faced the greatest tragedy in human history. 40,000 of our people were murdered to make us afraid. The Vakreen Empire wanted to break our spirit. Instead, they forged us into something stronger. Wright paused, letting his words sink in. We went to war. We fought with everything we had. We destroyed an empire that had stood for centuries. And now we face a choice. What kind of people do we want to be? He gestured to the display behind him, showing footage from the war. Burning Vakreen ships, destroyed installations, the trial of Sovereign Krull. Some species fear us now. They see our military power and worry we will become conquerors. Let me be clear. Humanity does not seek empire. We do not want to rule over others. We want only to protect our own and live in peace among the stars. But, Wright's voice hardened, we have learned a bitter lesson. Peace requires strength. Diplomacy only works when backed by the ability to defend yourself. We tried trusting the Galactic Council to protect us. That trust cost 40,000 lives. So here is humanity's new doctrine. We will extend friendship to all peaceful species. We will trade freely. We will share knowledge. But we will also maintain the strongest military in the galaxy. We will never again rely on others for our protection. And we will never again allow anyone to harm our people without facing overwhelming retaliation. Wright's final words echoed across Earth and beyond. We are humans. We are peaceful by preference, but we are fierce when threatened. Remember this and we can all live in peace. Forget it and learn the lesson the Vakreen learned. Jake Morrison stood at Colony 7 looking at the memorial wall. The names of 40,000 dead were engraved in black stone, each one backlit so they glowed against the darkness. Families had come from across human space to pay their respects. Children placed flowers at the base of the wall. Veterans stood at attention. Chris Bennett stood beside him, staring at his sister's name. The young soldier had earned 3 medals during the war. He had killed dozens of enemy combatants. He had proven himself in combat. But standing here, he just looked like a grieving brother. Was it worth it? Chris asked quietly. Jake thought about the question. 12,000 humans had died in the war. Hundreds of thousands of Vakreen, entire fleets destroyed. An empire broken? I don't know, Jake admitted. We avenged them. We made sure it can never happen again. But they're still dead. Nothing we did brings them back. Then why did we fight? Because if we hadn't, more colonies would have fallen. More children would have died. We fought so that the next generation won't have to. Jake put his hand on Chris's shoulder. Your sister can't come back. But because of what we did, other sisters will live. That has to mean something. Chris nodded slowly. I got promoted. They want me to train the next group of recruits, or will you accept? Yeah, someone needs to teach them how to fight. Might as well be someone who knows what war really costs. Captain Amy Rodriguez accepted command of the Colonial Defense Fleet. Her first act was to oversee the establishment of military stations in every settled system. Small garrisons, but heavily armed and ready to respond to any threat within hours. She visited each colony personally, meeting with administrators and civilian leaders. Everywhere she went, people thanked her for her service. Children asked for autographs. Veterans saluted her in the streets. She hated it. She wasn't a hero. She was a soldier who had done what was necessary. The real heroes were buried on a dozen worlds, their names added to memorial walls like the one at Colony 7. But she smiled and shook hands and gave speeches. Because that was part of the job. People needed to believe the military would protect them. They needed to have faith that Colony 7 would never happen again. At night, alone in her quarters, she allowed herself to remember the faces of crew members who hadn't come home, The Vakreen ships she had destroyed, knowing each one held living beings, the weight of command decisions that had sent people to their deaths. She poured a drink and raised it to the viewport, toasting the dead. Then she started planning the next day's work. The fleet needed constant training. Defenses needed upgrading. Threats needed monitoring. The war might be over, but the duty never ended. Dr. Helen Carter presented her findings to the scientific community. The weapons she had created were stored in secure facilities, never to be used unless absolutely necessary. She had returned to her original work, developing medical treatments and studying alien biology. But she couldn't forget what she had done. She had designed a virus that killed millions of Vakreen. She had weaponized her knowledge, turning years of peaceful research into tools of death. It had been necessary. It had saved human lives. But it had also changed her. She established new protocols for biological research, safeguards to prevent weapons development, review boards to ensure science served peaceful purposes. Other scientists praised her for taking responsibility. She knew it wasn't enough. Nothing would ever be enough. Late at night, she reviewed footage from the war. She watched Vakreen soldiers die from her virus, their bodies betraying them as the engineered disease destroyed their nervous systems. She forced herself to watch, to remember, to never forget the cost of what she had created. Ambassador Richard Cole worked to rebuild Earth's relationships with other species. The Galactic Council had been permanently damaged by revelations of their complicity in the Colony 7 massacre. 3 member species had withdrawn entirely. Others demanded reform. Cole helped establish a new framework for galactic governance, one with actual enforcement mechanisms, real consequences for aggression, mandatory intervention in cases of genocide. The Council resisted, but they had no choice. Human military power gave Cole leverage they couldn't ignore. He negotiated mutual defense treaties with 15 species, trade agreements with 30 more, cultural exchanges, technology sharing, all designed to build connections that would prevent future conflicts. But he also made sure humanity maintained its independence. No treaty required Earth to ask permission before defending itself. No agreement restricted human military development. Humanity would cooperate, but never again would they depend on others for survival. Jake Morrison accepted promotion to general and took command of the Colonial Defense Force. His job was to ensure every human settlement had adequate protection. He threw himself into the work, visiting colonies, inspecting defenses, training soldiers. He returned to Colony 7 one final time before taking up his new post. The memorial had been completed, a massive structure visible from orbit. The settlement itself was being rebuilt, with new families arriving to reclaim the world. Jake stood before the memorial wall at sunset. The names glowed brighter as darkness fell. 40,000 dead, 40,000 reasons to never let his guard down. "I'm sorry we couldn't save you," he said quietly, "but I promise we'll never forget. We'll make sure no other colony suffers like you did. That's my oath to you." He saluted the wall, holding the position for a long moment. Then he turned and walked away. There was work to do. Always more work. But that was fine. As long as he was working, he was protecting people. And that was the only thing that mattered. President Wright's final act of his term was to establish the Department of Human Defense, a permanent military organization tasked with protecting humanity across the stars, funded by all Earth governments. The stars had never seemed so peaceful. Commander Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the horizon's edge, watching the distant lights of Colony 7 grow brighter as his ship approached. He had made this run 17 times before, delivering supplies and checking on humanity's settlements scattered across the frontier. Each visit brought good news. Crops were growing. Children were being born. Humanity was finally spreading its wings among the stars. Lisa Hayes had sent him a message 2 days ago. The colony administrator wanted to show him the new school they had built. 40,000 people now called Colony 7 home, and they needed more teachers. Lisa joked that maybe Jake would finally retire from space duty and settle down. He smiled at the memory. She always tried to recruit him. The sensor officer suddenly straightened in his chair. His face went pale as he stared at his screen. Jake felt his stomach drop before the young man even spoke. "Commander, I'm reading multiple unknown signatures in orbit around Colony 7, military-class vessels. They're not responding to hails." Jake moved quickly to the tactical display. 20 warships surrounded the colony world. Their design was unfamiliar, but their weapons were hot. Active targeting systems painted everything in orbit, including his unarmed exploration ship. Get me a connection to the colony. Now. Static filled the bridge speakers. Then Lisa's voice broke through, distorted and desperate. Explosions echoed in the background. People were screaming. Jake, they came without warning. No demands. No communication. They're just killing everyone. The shields are down. They're bombing the cities. Oh God, the children. They're targeting the schools first. Jake, you have to warn Earth. Tell them the Vacrine are coming. Tell them to run. The connection died in a burst of white noise. Jake stood frozen. His crew looked at him, waiting for orders. Protocol said he should retreat immediately. His ship had no weapons. He couldn't help. But 40,000 people were down there. Lisa was down there. Take us in. Emergency speed. Sir, we can't fight them. We'll be destroyed. Jake's voice came out cold and hard. I didn't say fight. I said take us in. Record everything. If we're going to die, Earth needs to know what happened here. The horizon's edge accelerated toward Colony 7. The Vacrine warships ignored the small vessel, focused on the slaughter below. Through the viewports, Jake watched orbital strikes hammer the planet's surface. Entire city blocks vanished in columns of fire. The agricultural zones burned. The spaceport exploded. The sensor officer worked frantically at his station. I'm getting it all, sir. High-resolution video, full-spectrum analysis. The data core will survive even if we don't. One of the Vacrine ships finally turned toward them. Weapons locked on. Jake waited for the end. Instead, a message appeared on his screen in perfect English. Small human vessel. You will witness. You will remember. You will tell your species what happens to those who dare settle among their betters. Run home. Tell them the Vacrine Empire has spoken. The weapons lock released. The alien ship turned away, returning to its bombardment. Jake's hands shook as he gripped the command chair. They were letting him go. They wanted him to watch. They wanted witnesses. For 6 hours, Jake and his crew orbited Colony 7 and recorded the genocide. The Vacrine methodically destroyed every settlement, every farm, every structure humans had built. When the bombing finally stopped, landing craft descended. Ground troops spread out across the ruined cities. The video feeds showed Vacrine soldiers executing survivors. Men, women, children, anyone they found. They set up cameras, making sure every death was recorded from multiple angles. They were proud of their work. When the last human on Colony 7 was dead, the Vacrine fleet departed. They left their recordings behind, broadcasting on all frequencies. A gift for humanity, a lesson in fear. Jake ordered the horizon's edge to the surface. He had to see it himself. He had to know for certain. The colony was ash and blood. Bodies lay in the streets. The school Lisa had been so proud of was a crater. Jake walked through the ruins in his environmental suit, his boots crunching on broken glass and burned bone. He found Lisa near the administrative building. She had died trying to shield a group of children with her own body. It hadn't worked. Jake knelt beside her, unable to speak, unable to think. His crew found him there an hour later, still kneeling, still silent. The journey back to Earth took 3 weeks. No one on the horizon's edge spoke unless necessary. They had all seen the footage. They all knew what was coming. When they arrived at Earth orbit, military vessels immediately surrounded them. The Vacrine broadcast had already reached humanity's homeworld. Jake stood before Admiral Susan Grant and President Daniel Wright in an emergency session. The room was packed with military commanders, government officials, and representatives from every nation on Earth. Jake's report was simple. He showed them everything. Every moment of the massacre. Every murdered child. Every burned home. The room was silent when the footage ended. President Wright's face was gray. Admiral Grant's jaw was clenched so tight Jake could see muscles jumping in her cheek. The Galactic Council has already responded, Wright said quietly. They're asking us to withdraw from all our colonies. They say the Vacrine are too powerful to fight. They say we should accept terms and retreat back to Earth. Jake looked at the president. And what are we going to do, sir? Wright stood up. He walked to the window overlooking the capital city. Millions of people down there going about their lives, billions more across the planet. All of them now targets. All of them waiting to see if their leaders would protect them or abandon them. The council wants us to run. The Vacrine want us to submit. Wright turned back to face the room. His voice was steady and cold. They wanted to teach us fear. Instead, they've taught us fury. Admiral Grant, mobilize everything. Every ship. Every soldier. Every weapon we have. Commander Morrison, you're promoted. I want you training our ground forces. We're going to show the Vakreen what happens when you hurt humans. The president activated the planetary broadcast system. His face appeared on every screen across Earth. Billions stopped what they were doing to listen. My fellow humans, by now you've all seen what happened at Colony 7. 40,000 of our brothers and sisters were murdered to make us afraid. The Vakreen Empire wants us to bow. The Galactic Council wants us to run. I say we give them something else. I say we give them war. The cheering started in the assembly room and spread across the planet. Humanity had made its choice. They would not run. They would not surrender. They would have revenge. Jake stood at attention as the president finished his speech. He thought of Lisa. He thought of the children in that school. He thought of 40,000 dead voices crying out for justice. The Vakreen had broadcast their brutality to terrify humanity. Soon humanity would broadcast something back. Soon the galaxy would learn what humans became when you murdered their children. Soon the Vakreen would learn the price of their lesson.